Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jamie Kendall,
Present.
Darcy McSwain,
Present.
Paul Jendersky,
Present.
Edgar Titoff,
Present.
Michael Nesbitt,
Present.
Kathy Harris,
Present.
and Lois Tiley.
Here.
Gary Campbell, OMA procedure, election of President Pro Tem.
Mr. Campbell is the village attorney. We should start with electing a mayor pro tempore. The mayor serves as a function, the president pro tem serves as a function of the president should you be absent, and can run meetings if you're not around. If you'd like to guide us through that, Gary, just the election process, OMA, FOIA, and some procedural things for the new council, we appreciate it.
Well, good evening, everyone. I thought I'd be the last on the line. That's usually what happens. I say I'm first, which is sort of surprising. I just passed out a little handout I made regarding some of the issues that I think I was asked to address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've been the village attorney for a number of years and happy to serve you in that capacity. And some of the questions I had, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I need to talk about, but one of the issues was the operation or the procedures of the village council. I know we have never, people I've known for years have been here, we have new members now. But I've laid out, some of the roles that are there. We have the president, obviously, who is the CEO and who operates the meetings and who basically is in charge of the village. And then we have six trustees, who then, look at the policies and procedures, the things that the village needs during the course of their terms. And basically, the council is here to, you've been elected by the people of the village. You're here to represent their interests and their needs. And that's basically the responsibility. Obviously, we try to bring to the village governance, what the needs of the people are, so that's what we try to do. Regarding the operation of the council, the president is the person who nominates, the council appoints the officers for 2-year terms. Those are mainly the committees, the various other organizations you have within the council. And also the president is a voting member of the council. Some organizations, the president does not vote, but in the village, the president is a voting member of the council. And so, regarding meetings, now obviously we need a quorum whenever we have a true meeting. If there's not a quorum, we cannot conduct village business. And so that is important. And obviously the council works upon the majority vote of the council. It's always been a practice, whether it be a township or a village, that individual members don't have single authority to do anything. What basically your role is that as the majority of the council is really the authority that regulates what happens within the township itself. And so that's always an important thing to look at also. That is the council, not the individual, who governs this village. The procedures in running a meeting follow the Robert's Rules of Order. Those have been around for a long time. There's about a 600-page book. It covers every aspect of governance. And usually they're not very important other than when there's an issue up that you need to deal with. And I deal with that once in a while when an issue comes up of how do we handle this issue or that issue, or how do we go forward on a particular issue. The president conducts the meetings and maintains order during the meeting. And this is important because, obviously we have the council, and basically it's trying to work together, trying to be cordial and accommodating to one another. Also, we have the public present. Obviously, this is an open meeting, so everyone is invited who wants to be present. And so it's also important for the president then to maintain order and make sure that everything is followed properly. The council is the body that makes decisions, that makes discussions and so on. The public is basically here to gather information, to understand what is going on, to know what the council's doing, and to see what is going to be happening. In regard to that, the public response to a meeting is only contained within that portion of the agenda called the public hearing part of it. And that's where the public has the opportunity to come forward, give their name and address, and then state what their issues are, what their concerns are. And the council, can basically normally just listens to what those items are, what they are, and may assign, and usually don't discuss that during the course of the meeting. It's usually oftentimes assigned to a staff person to look into it, or the council might say, well, we'll want to look into this a little further, and we may place that on our agenda for the next meeting. So that there's some preparation, so you might be taken by surprise at something that comes up. You may want to think about it more and consider it more before you want to deal with it. So oftentimes it's a good thing just to table that and then maybe put that on the agenda for the next meeting. The council also is subject to the Michigan Open Meetings Act. And this is a pretty stringent aspect of the council. First of all, every council meeting is a public meeting. It's open to the public, it must be made available to everyone there. So we have here the council room. There's not really a lot of room, not really standing, but this is our biggest spot where we can do that. So that's part of what we do here. The public may record the proceedings. The council can establish reasonable rules and regulations in order to minimize any disruption of the meeting. So these things can be recorded and so on, but just as long as it doesn't infringe upon the council's actions during that meeting. There's also the issue of sometimes of disruptions during a meeting. And the Open Meetings Act is pretty gentle on that issue. Usually the only thing the Open Meetings Act says is if there's a breach of peace actually occurring during the meeting. What is a breach of peace? Well, it could be, argument, it could be accusing people of things outside the scope of their duties, it could be a number of those kinds of things. And oftentimes the president then has to either tell people, hey, let's settle down, let's just deal with the facts and what your concerns are. And if things got too out of control, then the person could be asked to leave. But that's usually the last resort, is trying to calm things down and be able to listen to the public at large. Also, during the meetings, there's also the item called closed session. Closed sessions are very limited under the Open Meetings Act. I've listed, in here, some of the things that might be dealt with. It's, it may be issues of I'm trying to see if I put this in the right section here. It oftentimes involves issues of whether it be dealing with personnel issues, dealing with attorney-client issues, those kinds of things that we want to discuss privately as a council. And the Open Meetings Act lists those exceptions in its statutes. One of the things too is that whenever there's a quorum of council members, that in and of itself creates what we call a obligation to have an open meeting. And we've dealt with that issue for many years. There's numerous court cases on it, like what happens when a number of council members get together outside of an open meeting to discuss council business. And that particular issue, it creates the problem that it is in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And so it's very important that council members not discuss council things outside of the public hearing, because that would be a violation of the act, which could be, again, prosecuted by the Michigan Attorney General's office. The courts have, I put in here on the third page, the courts have forbidden constructive quorums, that's what we're talking about, where you're not having a meeting, but you have the quorum there. In this case, we have 8 members, so you'd have about 5 people, discussing that, which would be a quorum of the group. Also, there's the issue about round robin communications. This is a situation where someone may call or email each individual member of the council to get their opinion or to try to sway them in a certain way. And again, that is also forbidden by the Open Meetings Act. And I've explained that in the summary we have here. Because this basically amounts to making decisions outside of the council's public meeting forum, which we are in tonight. Also, that involves, as I mentioned, emails, but also there are exceptions to this. Whereas a quorum of council members can get together if there's a presentation by a group giving a presentation to the council. It also can be avoided if this council's having a social gathering or we're discussing political matters. But the main thing is that council discussion not take place when a majority meets outside of the public meeting. And the last thing in this regard is the special meetings. Obviously, we have a meetings once a month, but you can also have a special meeting, but that, again, you have to give an 18-hour notice to the public of that special meeting to, again, inform the public if they want to be here, present for that meeting. And finally, we have the Freedom of Information Act, another state statute that involves the production of public records. And a public record is a prepared writing that's prepared, owned, and used in possession of or retained by the public body in performance of its official functions. And again, we have we call it a FOIA coordinator. In that case, usually it's Jennifer, who handles that. She gets the written request, and she then processes that under the norms that are under the Freedom of Information Act. Under FOIA, any person can request a public record, and the village is required to make a response to that request within 5 business days. But also, we're allowed to get an extension of an additional 10 business days to respond to the requester. And in making that response to the requester, the village can determine how long it's gonna take to get those documents. Sometimes it's quite extensive. Recently, we had, I think the village may have gotten also a request for election records. And that can be somewhat of a monumental task, so we have to give our best efforts estimate how long it's gonna take to gather all that stuff to be able to give it to that individual. That's put in the response to the requester. Also, regarding FOIA, the village can charge the cost of searching for the records, the labor costs, can also charge the cost of photocopying that information, as well as mailing charges. So, and those are all spelled out in the Freedom of Information Act. So that's basically, in a very short outline, the operation of the council, which is basically governed by the Open Meetings Act, as well as FOIA. And I guess my main issue is if you have any questions about anything I said, or things I didn't raise that you have questions about, I'd be happy to try to answer any of those.
I have one, honey.
Yes.
On the first page, under the council,
The council meeting, oh, the council,
Under the-
yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
where it says the president nominates and the council appoints officers for 2-year terms. The president is a voting member of the council.
Yes.
Okay, what exactly do you mean by the appoints officers?
The officers would be, we could have, officers, we'd have committee members.
Okay,
For example, I imagine a number of committees that are under the council. And so the president then would nominate those individuals, then the council then would vote on whether they would accept or not accept, or maybe suggest other people instead of what the president may have suggested.
that's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to make sure. it's
Yes,
right.
I-
Okay,
That's correct, yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions?
I think a lot of us went to the Mid-Michigan League. I went to Lansing.
Yes.
Most of this was discussed there.
Yes.
It was interesting, so.
Yeah, it's something, it's, I think it's really great that, citizens want to get involved in government, and, the thing is, we have an organization that has all sorts of rules and regs out there, and it's really hard to know what those are until, and you've gone to programs and you've studied the stuff, you got the booklets, which are very helpful to show what responsibilities and duties we have, and.
A lot of them did it online, but actually, I think I got more out of it going down there, so.
Yes.
Yeah. If anybody needs a copy of the book or want to read it, they're more than welcome to, though.
Yes, I do have a copy, I've been,
I'm sure
those
you
are,
do, but I'm just saying, I need to let it
yeah, those are real helpful.
I sent everybody an electronic copy as well. And so the purpose of having Gary here is when I became county commissioner, I brought Bonnie Toski, our labor law attorney, in to kind of help us new members, is what happens, how do meetings go, and so that was the premise for this. So I thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll probably leave then, because
Okay.
we're overbooked here tonight, so I'll make room for other people. But it's nice seeing all of you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can move to the election of the president pro tem. We take a nomination, a second, and a roll call vote with the majority ruling.
We're a little rough around the edges here, so you're gonna have to kind of guide us through
Yep,
to allow
so-
us get in the groove.
Understood.
Because
So,
truthfully,
the
I've been to a
president,
couple of meetings.
the president can't nominate, but he can second. So a motion of a trustee to elect the president pro tem. We'll take a second from another trustee or the president, and a roll call vote with a majority vote.
I think that we could get some of the senior people that
And
have
if,
been here a little
yeah,
while.
and if there's no majority, then you elect or nominate another person to see if they would get the vote.
I think we'll catch on, just give us some time.
Yep, nope, no problem.
I'll make a nomination to have Mike Nesbitt as our president pro tem, if he's willing.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion, a second. We're gonna roll call vote down the line, yea or nay. And if he garners the support, then he would be the president pro tem. If not, we would need a second motion and a second to that motion and another roll call vote.
Do I abstain?
No?
Okay.
I voted for myself twice. I was so nervous, I didn't even know my name. I just said, owie. So,
Jamie Kendall,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain, Paul Jenderski,
Yeah.
Ed Titoff,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Kathy Harris,
Yes.
and Lois Tiley.
Yes.
well, that was easy.
Yep.
Congrats, Mike.
You don't even have to change chairs.
Moving along, special presentation. Chief Church and I were discussing the morning of November 25th. We're in the presence of some heroes. Obviously, at 8 in the morning, we had an incident in the St. Charles, and no injuries occurred due to the quick actions of 2 citizens that took control of the suspect before he could get all the way into the house. So, on behalf of the village, we'd like to thank these heroes. We had some plaques put together. It just basically says St. Charles Hometown Hero Award in recognition of your bravery in the face of adversity. And only one of these gentlemen let the hero status get to his head. So we'll go with Mr. Justin Fulton. Justin, please stand. One of the heroes and the one that let it get to his head, Mr. Neil Woodgate.
I hope it says, it says the Ferris Bueller.
If my wife says I can't hang it up in the living room, it's going through.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
Public comment?
Is that on?
Yes.
I probably don't need it, but I guess so. Hello, Village Council, and Manager Hart. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Paul Krasaniak. I'm a village resident since 2007. I'm serving currently on the Youth Baseball and Softball Board since 2017, and I joined the Village Parks and Rec Committee this past spring. I'm speaking on behalf of the Parks and Rec Committee and just as a general, community member. So, a couple other things about myself. I've been an educator for 22 years, and then I've also locally I've coached youth baseball, basketball, and football. And then I want to congratulate all of the newly elected officials, and I want to welcome back all of the incumbent officials, council members. Thanks for your service and being willing to step forward. Being an elected official or community volunteer is often a thankless job, and I want to thank you in advance for both the challenging and rewarding work that you guys have had. I also want to thank Hart for his tireless effort on the Parks and Rec Committee with under your tenure, or numerous council initiatives have come to fruition. Your securing of grants for the community, and kind of a boots on the ground manager has been very beneficial for the village over the past couple of years. Whether it's just the various things, whether it's the Christmas parade, the numerous bikes. Every time there's one of those giveaways, there's more and more, and just really gets a lot of things involved. Even putting on there's the Easter egg thing, and he's the one in the bunny suit, that sort of stuff. So it's really a testament to your dedication. So thank you. As a member of the Village Parks and Rec Committee, I'm excited about our 5-year plan. We recently completed it and have submitted for your approval, so you guys probably have that in hand, I guess. Hart, thanks for your leadership on that. I think the new playscape at Coal Miners Park is going to be a fantastic addition to the community. One of the things that's also in that plan is to kind of renovate the infields on the baseball fields in Coal Miners Park. If you've ever been back to the field 2, which is the dugout with the sunken dugouts, that soil mixture there is really heavily gravel laden, and kids are learning to slide at that point, and they're getting tore up. And so that's one of the things that's in the Parks and Rec plan, is to switch that soil out and make it more user friendly. Also, the new kayak launch is underway, and that's going to be a fantastic addition. That's going to bring people and business to the town. There's a makes for a fishing pier. We've got a nice riverfront. People like to try to go fishing, and it's hard to get access. So that's one of the things, is to try to put a pier in there and get better access to the flats and our waterways. And then those local amenities are going to be, I think, well received by the community. So we're looking forward to having that in place. So I want to thank you guys all for your service and support, and I look forward to working with all of you in whatever capacity that I can as you guys move forward. So thanks for your time this evening.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Anybody else?
I would just add, that the field two, last February, Sam Mayer and crew, and Don Ackerman came in on Sunday and took out 11 dumpster loads of, down wood in the disc golf course. And Sam has offered services and labor, and perhaps that's our project, one of our projects this winter, maybe in February or something, when things slow down a little bit, to dig up that gravel and start working in the new stuff. If you're up to it, Sam, I'm Bellin.
I am, actually, I have some stuff to say, if you don't mind.
Oh,
What's the difference in the fields before you get going there? I mean, you got 3 different fields.
they all have diamond dust on them, but they're not
So
exactly
why
quality.
Why is one so bad versus the other 2?
That's a great question, Paul.
So you're gonna have to redo all 3 of them?
We had a company come out of Pennsylvania. It was right kind of at the start of the pandemic, and so it was kind of a goofy time frame. But they do everything from, college and professional fields, and they came out and they gave us some estimates, which were pretty crazy, but they gave us an idea of where to head forward.
For one field?
For all 3 fields, he kind of gave us what would be the best case scenario. So field 1 which would be the softball field, as you come into the park, it's the first field kind of behind the big pavilion.
Yeah.
That one, because of the way it's been, I guess, groomed so many times, there's actually like a small berm when you go from the infield to the outfield, and so it's potential like a trip hazard or something. It's just kind of a tough way to field a ball in that area. So that was one thing that could be addressed. And then, some of this predates me being in town, so I don't know why the fields are the way they are, but then, just having coached, T-ball and second, the younger kids on field 2, which is the one with the sunken dugouts, it's just a really powdery, almost gravel mix.
I mean, when they did it, didn't they do all of them at the same time? I mean,
It wasn't done, we just had them come in and do
I'm
quotes.
just saying, I mean, why is 1, 2, I mean, when they put it down, why was the gravel that much different than 1?
I don't know, I guess I'd encourage you just to walk out there sometime and you can see the difference, like the soil mixture on the softball field is substantially different than field 2. Field 3 is similar to field 2, but not quite as different. And I don't know why it's the way they are, but that's the way they are.
I'm sure they've been
Done with that, that helps.
There's different grades of diamond dust that you can put on
I'm
them.
just saying, the kids are getting tore up on 2, why is it different on 1 or 3?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, just, the soil's just different, you just have to take a look at it. Whatever was put in there at some point is just kinda rough. Does that help?
Yeah.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sam Mayer. I've been nearly a lifelong resident of St. Charles, and I'm here because this town is important to me and my family. I'm a private individual, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to give you some background on myself, as I believe it's relevant. I'm a 2011 graduate of St. Charles High School, where I graduated with honors. From there, I pursued a degree in business law at the University of Michigan. I learned quickly that college isn't for everyone. At the end of 2012, I entered the workforce, still calling St. Charles home. The company that I work for is the largest drywall distribution company in North America. With over 300 locations, we are publicly traded with a $5 billion valuation and heavily monitored by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. For those that don't know, it's a financial reporting system for publicly traded companies. So we're paperwork, ins and outs, it's all public record. In my role, I'm responsible for over $20 million a year in business. I'm also involved in our Young Leaders Program, which is designed to prepare future leaders of our company for a VP position. I'm one of 90 in a company that has 5,000 employees. In early 2018, I was moved to Traverse City to salvage and manage a failing branch of our company. They gave me 12 months to get it fixed, and they were going to shut it down. In 90 days, I had the branch's debts paid, and we were breaking even. In 180 days, it was profitable. When I requested to be moved back home at the end of 2020, that branch was operating in the highest metrics of our company. Traverse City is a beautiful place, but it just wasn't home. So in October of 2020, I took a new job with my company and moved back to St. Charles. Because of my position in the company I work for, I've had the opportunity to work with some of the largest development projects in Michigan. I've worked alongside Dan Gilbert, the owner of Quicken Loans, Mike Illich, the owner of the Red Wings and Detroit Tigers, and Matt Ishbia, the CEO of United Wholesale Mortgage, the largest mortgage lending company in America, and all of their architects and development teams. I'm currently managing all the material sales at the Ford Hub, which is the largest development project in the Midwest. Second only in the country to Blue Oval City, which is also a Ford product in Tennessee. Both of those projects are valued at $10 billion. One thing all these people have in common, and it doesn't matter at what level you're doing this stuff, even at a large scale or small scale, the development and their success, these people all focus on large scale development, and their success is easily measured by the growth and prosperity of the partnering cities and towns. Detroit's a perfect example. I don't know how often you get down to downtown Detroit in the last 10 years, but it's come a long way, and a lot of it is because of the Illiches and the Gilberts and what they're willing to do to develop the town. Also the backing of the state of Michigan and the federal government in funding and grants. I had my first interaction with Hart in January of 2021, and when I met with him and Don Ackerman at the park to talk about how I could help in the community. I had told my wife when we moved home that coming back to St. Charles meant I would be sure to do my part to help improve the community and I grew up in and love so much. We just had a daughter in May, and she's going to grow up here. What I can tell you about Hart is that I was immediately impressed. He's passionate, driven, smart, analytical, and extremely knowledgeable of not only local government, but the inner workings of state government as well. He understands how to secure funding, pursue grants, and maximize the opportunity for a small town like ours, which could otherwise easily be overlooked by the state of Michigan. Hart is open to all and any ideas of the members of this village, and given the resources, quick to make improvements while being objective and thoughtful. I made a commitment to provide my full support, manpower, and resources to him once I realized he truly has the best interests of this town at heart. Together we cleared the down timber, which Hart mentioned in the park, which is tough to keep up on because of the dying pine ridge. It should be done twice a year, really, and it's just, the village itself doesn't have the manpower to do it, the DPW doesn't have the manpower to do it. I've got the people and I'm willing to help do that, and I'll continue to help. We made improvements to the ball diamonds, which included updating the dugouts with new shingles. Labor and material was donated by a friend of mine, fixing the chain link and split rail fences, adding new signage, all which led to the return of the Little League after 7 years of absence. We put on a successful concert together, and we continue to work towards even greater improvements, which we hope will bring back a softball league at some point, allow for state-sanctioned disc golf tournaments, and provide an overall better park experience for the members of this community. Hart is always looking at ways to bring new business to town, pursue deals that lead to new jobs, new and improved infrastructure, and new commerce in our community. And I apologize for this being long-winded, but this is my long thank you to Hart for doing such a tremendous job.
Well, I was hoping you were going to get up and talk about what you're doing with the disc golf course.
No,
So Sam has secured $3,000 already towards a goal of $6,000 to replace all of our baskets, to make it so it's state-sanctioned baskets so we can start hosting tournaments, which would include and there generate revenue for the village parks. Everything that he just said couldn't be done without Sam, so I don't know, I appreciate you saying that, all that, but it's a lot of it was you, and I thank you for saying that, but keep up the great work, and I look forward to continuing this partnership. So he comes to the parks meetings, he's kind of big on some of these plan ideas, and hopefully we can make everything come to fruition in due time. This is an ambitious plan. Over $200,000 in new spending in our parks in the next 5 years. Not 10, 15, 20, but and Sam's a huge part of that, so thanks, Sam.
one last thing I've learned in the last 2 years of being home is this village has the ability to accomplish a lot. It's that it doesn't necessarily have the resources to do that, and it's the buy-in of the community that helps with all of this stuff and this ambitious plan that Hart's talking about. So I'm just here to kind of help get people involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
You got more than 3 minutes.
He didn't have to miss bowling for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, you did.
Go bowl.
missed my 94 pins tonight.
Moving on to the Spicer engineer report.
Since Mitch is gone with the flu, I'm just going to touch base. You have the report in front of you. I'm sure I won't do it justice as he would, but Just the main things would be on the drinking water asset management plan. We're still continuing to work with Don and the group to verify the material and size of the interior portion of water services. Identified we had money left over from the grant. I think it was $397,000 we received from the state to verify these, which they're giving us, 5 years to start the process, and then you have to do, 10% a year for the next, 5% for the next, so we finally got the approval from the state to use the last 44,000 to start identifying, and we're using that opportunity to put it all into a system so that, in the future, we won't have to have a Tito go out and find it for us. We'll have it all digitized, so you can just look up the maps. So that'll give us the condition, and the level of service needed for the final report. Water system improvements to phase 1, that's the $3.6 million project we're trying to bond. So I met with the state, we had a grant project kickoff meeting. Spicer submitted the final utility review and MDOT permitting. They're scheduling and performing a final review with Don and myself. You do have a handout of kind of what we were looking at. I don't know if it came across in color, but that's the idea of the plan, and if you need it in color, we'll go over that. So they'll hopefully submit the final estimates of cost to bond council to see what we were approved for and what we can afford to pay. And then we're anticipating on advertising the bid plans January 2nd. So wastewater improvements, they received the material and the contractor plans. I'm beginning work next week and adding the mission units to the Maple and Walnut Street pump stations. So that just brings us into the 21st century with internet and technology to let us know when things aren't working. The Spruce Street sidewalk improvements that have been discussed, we have the preliminary plans. He was supposed to bring the final numbers today. Obviously, he's not here, so I'm going to ask that to be removed from the agenda. He asked to postpone it for next month so he can be here. So the final preliminary estimates of costs and preliminary special assessment district will be reviewed with you guys next month. And that's all from the Spicer report.
Approval and adjustments to the agenda.
I would eliminate item E, Ithaca Road sidewalk, and we'll just put it on next month.
Council minutes approval.
We'll need to, Mike, would you make a motion to approve the,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the adjustments to the agenda.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Commission and committee reports. Parks and Rec Committee.
We gotta go back to our council minutes.
What did I miss?
Do that right there, Tom. We gotta do this now. Council minutes. We just did adjustments to the agenda, we gotta do council minutes.
any question, comments, or typos found?
Are we looking for a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Now on to the commission and committee reports. Parks and Rec Committee.
We have the meeting minutes, we approved the parks plan and Sam discussed the, disc baskets. That's all.
And the planning commission,
We will be meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock here. We're gonna go through all 14 chapters of the zoning ordinance. This is just a review to make sure language, definitions all match up and fit the chapter they're supposed to be in. Throughout the process, we did about 4 chapters a month, and so we had 7 members that had questions, and in order to kind of drive down costs, I didn't have Rowe Engineering drive out here. I charged like $1,200 every trip. So I just made notes on every question they had, put it in track changes, and so tomorrow Rowe will be out to answer every single question on all 14 chapters. It's gonna be exhilarating. One member called today wondering if they needed a pillow for their butt and back. I said, better bring it. It's gonna be a long time, but after this is done, then we can move into the important stuff, which is the code, everything, you know, members of the planning commission would like to have a public hearing on marijuana. They'd like to talk about grass ordinance, trees, dogs, water billing, everything. And this is where like the meat and potatoes of everything. So all the dry stuff is coming to a close, with all the exciting stuff coming to the forefront. So.
So this is all open for everybody tomorrow?
Yep. Bring your pillow. One way or the other, you might need it.
Okay.
the DDA report,
Tomorrow at 11, there's a ribbon cutting for the strike zone at their business. I believe the citizen will be there. Looking for future endeavors. We, still working on the kayak launch. We hope to have that in spring, and then partner with other groups to create a kayak parade or a festival. Met with several managers today just to discuss. They're having problems with the safety of their kayaks and the piers, so looking at some safety items, to throw out in case something happens throughout the season. So hoping the DEA will approve that in January as well. They did approve to install lights and move the flagpole from the old museum to the downtown. We got to figure out the logistics of that, so that'll be a cool addition to behind the kiosk and in front of the water tower. So.
on to communications.
In October, the council approved to allow the MS bike rest stop at Lumberjack Park. And this is just a note from their manager, their senior specialist event production, thanking us for allowing them to come. And it's just, in the season of thanks, I want to take a moment and express just how grateful we are to have you as a member of our community here at the National MS Society. Your commitment to helping us by hosting a bike MS rest stop is integral to our successes. This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for you, for everything you continue to do to help change the world. So couldn't have done this without the council. It's something very little that we do to approve, and it's a nice event for about 100 riders, and they raise tons of funds to increase progress at finding a cure or a slowdown of MS. So thank you to the council for allowing that to happen. And the review magazine is just for your review. There are some good ideas in there. Some months are
Do we pay for
slow.
any of that magazine, Sam?
Pardon?
Do we pay for any of it, or just free to the public, review magazine?
Thanks.
Somebody asked me that, that's all.
Good question.
The review magazine comes with our MML subscription, but there are digital copies available online on MML's website.
I see, we don't pay for it though, do we?
No.
That goes through the state.
No.
Yes and no. Not for the actual magazine, it's just,
That's good.
also in communications, I would just add a couple things. Today, we made a contingent offer for the new DPW employee. I believe he's in the crowd. Mr. Tyler Brown has the experience that we were looking for and interviewed well. We held 13 initial interviews and accepted 4 second interviews, and I changed out board members to make sure that we were making the right decision, and today the offer was accepted by Mr. Brown, contingent on a background check and a drug test. But I think it's interesting that when he was 10, 11 years old, he said, "Tito, I'm going to replace you," and that is exactly what's happening. Pretty cool. When he came over, I'm going to tell the truth. You were nervous, and he said, "You have good news for me," and I didn't want to mess with his emotions because interviews are stressful. I said, I'm like Disneyland. I'm here to make a dream come true. And so I think he's going to really help out this $3.6 million project. Somebody that can get in the hole, knows how to work the equipment, who's going to learn quick. Like I said, we had several good candidates this round, and he was above and beyond what we were looking for, according to everybody that sat in, including the treasurer, clerk, all DPW employees. I want you to like the people. You're not going to like them all the time, but you have to work with these people, and you should get to know them first and foremost so we can make the best decision. So congratulations to Tyler. And last on communications, met with the Mid-Michigan Waste Authority this week. Everybody's got a lot of questions on the new carts coming out for recycling.
People are asking about the cans. How much are they? Did they say?
They're free.
I thought you had to pay $20 on or something.
They have for replacement. And that's if it's a damaged cart, they will repair or replace it. If you take a baseball bat to it, they're probably gonna make you pay for it. But starting the new year, they're gonna roll out 10,000 carts per week. They think it should take 6 to 8 weeks once it's started. Cascade will be the company that delivers it to you. You can have the 96-gallon cart for 30 days, and if you think that's just too much cart, then you may swap out to the 64-gallon with no fee. You have 6 months to make that decision. And contact MMWA for any cart swaps. We approved the language that's going to be on the side. It's going to have their phone number, their email address, recyclemotion.org. So go through them. They're happy to do this. And they said keep your weekly recycling until you get your recycling cart. And I asked the question, when are we going to return the recycle bins? And they said they're looking into it. So further on that, the last thing is the STC library is still the highest volume of their yearly old holiday lights program. So I don't think we'll have it here next year and cut into their winning record, and all the money raised goes to the Child Abuse Neglect Council. So a cool event until January 15th. All your old holiday lights, bring them here or to the library, preferably the library, so they can win something. But that's the update from the Michigan Waste.
Payment of claims.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills for the month of November in the amount of $112,567.17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Brings us to new business.
In front of you is the MDOT TED F-B number 590 grant resolution. This is for the $529,000 grant from the state of Michigan, $250,000 of their money to replace roads in the village as part of our water system improvements. That $3.6 million, by getting this grant, it allows us to do a lot more on the water side that we would have had to pay for sidewalks and roads out of. In order to move the contract forward, a resolution is required with it. So, as I mentioned before, once this is approved, it's going to take 8 to 10 weeks for the state to okay it, everything that we're trying to do, and this is where we really get to the nitty-gritty of what roads exactly, what water mains, what streets, what sidewalks, ADA compliant, all of that information. So this gets the ball rolling on the state side. This is, the faster we get it to the state, the earlier that we can begin bidding. Again, the goal is January 2nd, so that we can have those open February and have the project started in the spring. So this is required as part of the contract to move forward with the $250,000 from the state.
We don't have a number, or did we have a number? No questions. If there are no questions, I'll make a motion that we approve, TEDF-B number 590 grant contract application resolution.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Jamie Kendall,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Paul Jendersky,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Kathy Harris, and Lois Tiley.
Yes.
Bring us on to item B, MDOT recreational impact section.
So MDOT will be doing some work on the South Bridge, M52, the Bad River. The work in the area includes riprap placed in the river to protect the bridge from water-based scour erosion. The work at this location is bundled with numerous other locations of similar work in the general area. The overall project letting is February 2023. Because of the numerous locations, it will be 2023 and 2024 construction season job. So the specific timeline of accessing the St. Charles location during that general timeline will be based on stream flow at the time and is elevation that work can be proceeded. The proposed work is expected to all occur below the ordinary high water mark within the river channel. So anytime that MDOT does any public recreational property work or impacted even temporarily for a transportation project, they are required to receive approval from us or the official jurisdiction over the resource for the environment. I gave you a map that's pretty terrible. There's a colored map if you'd want to pass it down and kind of review where their work was or will be. So under federal law, public recreation properties are considered important resources protected by the Section 4F of the Department of Transportation Act. So it requires MDOT to demonstrate that there is no feasible alternative to using the properties and that all possible planning to maximize harm has been undertaken. Documentation for Section 4F is extensive unless the official with jurisdiction over the resource agrees in writing with the assessment of the recreational impact. So MDOT's assessment of the impacts of the property shows it to be negligible, temporary, and the work will not affect the use, futures, or activities of the park. So this request is only regarding the recreational impact assessment. All legal access requests will come from an appropriate MDOT real estate staff member. They haven't called yet. It's been a couple weeks. So my questions to you and this council are, does anyone see a recreational impact at this time? Obviously, there could be some benefit with them working in that area, some trees cut out, some trees removed out of the river. Maybe try to partner with them to, hey, yeah, do it on our side, take those with you. And am I okay to approve this portion of the MDOT side of things prior to hearing from the legal department in real estate?
I think you're talking to the DNR about that, removing some of that debris down there.
I've talked to Sam about it, we've talked to DNR, but this is one way to get that particular section into the scope of their work.
Do we actually have to have the approval from the state just to remove that log jam?
DNR would probably have to have approval, depending on how we did it. Like I said before, the Army Corps of Engineers used to come up and do it yearly, but they've run
I
on
know there
a
was a
budget.
few volunteers that went down,
Yep.
that were removing some of them, so it was passable through river on boats, so. Why they don't keep it clear, I don't know. But I think they take care of it, but yeah.
Well, I think the ones that did that before are probably, some of them probably aren't even with us anymore.
Dale Greaves is still here, but no, yeah. Yeah.
There was a
That
couple
was
of
funded by the state, I believe. I don't think that
sportsman's
was local.
clubs that used to do that too.
So with your vote of approval, I will submit to MDOT that we don't see any impact at this time. And again, I'm going to try to work with them and to help them remove some of the trees, logs that are bunched up over on that area.
Alright, I guess I'm not 100% sure exactly.
They want to go through Waterfall Park and put their materials there and then barge off of it.
That river's not deep enough to put a barge in there.
That sounds like a MDOT problem.
I'd say some of that couldn't be removed from shore, but I mean, I wouldn't put a barge in there.
Would it be permanent or would it be?
No, no, this is just to do the work on the bridge. It would be,
Okay.
I can't give you a time frame as they gave me the 2023-2024 construction season, so.
What exactly do they wanna do to the bridge?
They're gonna look at it, inspect underneath and make any repairs, but
Okay.
in the process of doing so, they will affect and have materials that could affect that side of our park.
What does affect mean?
Oh, they're gonna put rock down, that's gonna probably get rid of some grass, they're gonna put materials down that could kill grass, or I don't foresee it being a huge problem of recreational use in Waterfowl Park.
Well, it's probably a good idea for them to look at it, because, I mean, did anybody really look at it after our flood a couple of years ago when trees and everything were banging into that thing, so.
Well,
might
they
be a
looked
good
at
idea.
it, they wouldn't let anybody cross it, trust me, it was inspected.
Are they just doing it to this bridge and not the other one?
Correct.
So they must think there's reason to look at it then.
Yep, and
Yes,
like I said,
state wouldn't be here.
the legal real estate department, people have not contacted me on what they're doing, what the scope is, or anything like that. So it's kind of the cart before the horse, but the sooner we
Really fix something.
approve this, then I think the sooner we'll hear from them.
Okay. Anybody else wanna look at this?
Good.
All of your equipment's gonna stay west of the boat launch.
It'll be right here in Waterfall, on the east side of the road.
95% of the boats going on that launch go east.
Yeah,
So as far as hindering recreational,
it shouldn't.
You wanna roll call, or do you wanna make a
Yes,
motion?
Just a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve MDOT recreational impact section 4F assessment.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Just item C, 133 North Saginaw Street. I believe that's to Rustic.
Yes, sir. And on your, in front of your podium, there's an email from the owner requesting some help in decision to cutting him a break on the charges. He has a 1.5 inch meter, which requires the minimums are set based on your meter size. And over the last 2 years, we've been in discussion with him that you can lower your meter size if it suits your business, which would in turn lower your rate. Like I said, we've talked about this for 2 years. It's a free permit from the village saying that you're gonna do the work because it has to be above grade. It does take a request from a plumber. Since this email was written and responded to, no plumber has come in, we have the permit ready to go, no charge, at your earliest convenience. So he's looking for a break on his sewer side of his bill, and currently has 2 unpaid water bills. It would be $20, turned it off. We did find a leak on the sewer side back in March. And so,
So why are you saying the bill's so high?
The readiness to serve on your bill, I don't know if you ever notice it, it's by the size of the meter.
Okay,
Most houses have a 3/4 inch meter, and that's, when you get into an 1.5 inch meter, it's probably 5 times that much, cause it goes by the volume of
you're
water.
saying replace the meters, that won't.
He can downsize the meter, which would lower the readiness to serve portion of the bill, but not the usage part.
so it'd be like $140 in savings.
But that would be on him. He
Well,
can
would
do
that be good business, then? Why wouldn't you do it?
We want them open.
Yeah.
So we're doing what we can to try to help, and so we give him all the information and then nothing happens, and so then you get an email like this and it's this is a council decision if we're cutting any breaks on anything.
Well, I could see that, because like, I think we had a discussion with the,
The church,
yeah, well, the,
Yeah.
yeah.
that was the water
Cemetery up
side,
here,
so.
Catholic cemetery, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep, the
What
Catholic
was up
church.
with that? What's the difference?
It's just a different side of it. It's, again, not a decision, it's a council decision, not
Hey,
a,
if you can keep a business open in the village, why wouldn't you? I mean.
right.
But when you know you're responsible and it's been 2 years, I got a kind of a concern with that, if you're responsible for it.
I mean, was it
And
the
you know
meter's
about it.
fault? I mean, was it the water running? I mean, I don't get it.
Wasn't there a water main break?
I think it froze, and did we give them a break on the sewer?
We did one on the water main break,
Typically, what we can do is if you have a water leak
just on the sewer
on the
side, not on
sewer
the
side,
water
and it
side.
doesn't run down the sewer, Hart will work with them to say, okay, look, we know that water didn't go down the sewer.
It's the same as
It
when
ran
you
on the
fill a
ground.
pool in the summer, we're crediting the sewer side,
I
not the
mean, I
water
get it, I
side.
know what you're saying.
But on the water side, we
They're
have,
from in town, I mean, if you can give them a break, why wouldn't you? To keep another business open in this town, if he plans on opening that business again,
When
versus,
does he plan on opening it, though? That's the question.
well, there you
The-
go.
the meter
There's some
is
questions to
on
be
him.
asked.
The question I would ask is if you give him the break, next time the church comes in or somebody else comes in, are you gonna
Right.
give everybody a
Well,
break?
if you can, I mean, how much can you give them? How much leeway can you give them?
Well, how
Give 'em
much
what
can
you
the city of Saginaw give us on
That's-
raising
there you go, there's the
our
question.
water 5% every year?
the only thing on the water side, we pay for that. Whatever break we give them,
The
somebody
village
pays.
has to pay for it?
No, the residents.
Well, I'm saying the
pay
residents are the village, yeah, so,
for it. So on the sewer side, we can give them a break because we treat our
well,
own
if you
sewer.
can, I mean, why wouldn't you?
The
To
the
keep a
doors-
business open, if he's gonna open the business again, why wouldn't you?
The doors have been open in over a year and a half, so water's really not being used, right?
Correct, it's just the minimum bill for that size meter, which we've explained, bring your plumber in, we'll inspect the work to make sure it's, to grade, and it'll lower your bill about $140.
I mean, the
on ready
COVID
to
thing
serve.
kinda got a little rough on all the businesses, and that's about when it shut down, correct?
True, but there was federal funds,
Isn't there funding?
stimulus funds to people for that reason.
Through the COVID or the state or feds?
Feds.
Isn't there something we can,
The feds gave him money, I believe. There's something online about what each business got in town.
As far as COVID relief went.
Mm-hmm.
hey, nobody wants to see a business in this town go away.
Love to have them open, and that's why,
Well, they're not presently open right now.
Two bills.
My
And is that by
question-
choice?
2 bills behind,
And that's by
to
choice.
credit the sewer.
Is water shut off?
The water's off, it's the minimum bill, the sewer for that size, the ready to serve is $174.84. And the minimum bill there is $14.65, so we're looking at $189 per bill.
That's to get it back on.
Yeah, I
That's,
think it
that's
worked.
to get, that's the credit to the sewer, he'd still have to pay the $20 in the remaining part of the water side, the water ready to serve, that is outstanding. Which again, he's paid the full bill for 2 years with no, so he knows what is expected of him or what to pay.
So,
You gave him options, is what you're saying.
Several times, Marguerite's spoken with him, Don's spoken with him, I've spoken with him, over the last year and a half, trying to
Hopefully they
help.
can work it
The,
out.
the last couple times I did not speak with him, I left
Left
a voicemail and it was never returned.
And we documented the time, a date of the call, everything like that, just so we have record. It's all in, we have a program called Asana where we track everything. So this is the call from November 21. And this email came 2 weeks later.
so am I looking for a motion to
If you're willing to do this,
cut Mr.
and
Rapley a break on his water bill,
on the sewer side of his water bills.
on the sewer side?
What if we give him a break and then he doesn't reopen?
Mm-hmm.
And are we setting a precedent?
And did we give a break to the church?
We did not.
A nonprofit?
No.
And we did give him a break on the sewer side of $190 worth.
Church isn't a business, it is really, I think some of the businesses, I know they do,
If
but
he
I'm just
was
saying.
open, Paul, I'd say, yeah, if we were sure he was gonna open.
Yeah, that's my question. That's my thought.
And he knows
And
the
it,
responsibility.
then, yeah,
And he needs to
yeah,
take
help the
ownership
guy
of it.
get open. But you don't know what he's gonna do.
Maybe you can give him as of conditions of, when you do, or when you're gonna, you
Yeah, that
Hold him to
could
his
work
word.
too. Yes, that would
Upon
work too.
opening, you will credit your sewer for the 389, whatever it is. That's one way to do it.
You said we've already compensated him for the
For the
sewer?
sewer on the water break, yep, and that was, March 16th, at 1:42 in the afternoon. The 74,000 gallons sewer credit at $2.57 is $190.18, with the idea that if we help him now, he'll open.
I'm good with it. I see your point with the set precedents. What do you do?
That's why you got elected.
Make a
and I-
decision. That's what we do.
But you can't help somebody who's not gonna help themselves, do you either?
But, and I don't have it, and
I
I
mean,
didn't have
what
it
you guys were explaining with the cemetery, they were told way ahead it was leaking.
twice.
There you go.
Yeah.
They can let it go.
Yep, and when we.
It's not the case here.
Nope, but when we found the water main break, we said, hey, this is on us, we were updating the system, we're gonna help you. So then we shut off the water, hasn't been on since. So this is just the minimum bill, so that we can get it on and get them back up and running.
Like I said, it sounds like he's gonna open up, or he wants to open up.
But is he maintaining communication? Sounds like from Don, he's not been maintaining good, proper
Yeah.
communication, someone who wants to really get help.
The urgency is not there, if that's what you're.
That's what I'm
alluding to.
alluding to, yes.
And he's paid this entire time he's been closed, correct?
Mm-hmm,
And just now it's become an issue? Or,
yeah,
Well, it says 2 quarters.
that he's behind,
Right. so-
correct.
So this
Well,
is-
what's on season two?
When did the water get shut off?
Good question, tagging off, 10/19, 22nd, or 9:54 AM. So, again, that was October 19th, and the call comes on 11/21, and the email comes on December.
It was shut off due
Six.
to lack of payment?
Shut off was due to lack of payment. And you get 2 notices that you're gonna, the warning, and
Oh, I had
You
trouble.
should, why wouldn't you? I would help him out any way I could. I think everybody else out is pouring too.
Changing the meter size changed the readiness to serve cost. for the
correct,
village.
correct. So most
Not
households.
to bill, but to the village itself.
No, to bill it does change.
But it doesn't change your cost in maintaining the service. You
No.
go from an 1.5 meter to a 3/4.
He has to pay to reduce the size of the meter. And when he does that, whatever size he chooses to go with, your readiness to serve will be charged according to that meter
And
size.
I believe a few businesses have done that in this pandemic, and I think even the school might have requested that and looked into it, trying to service all the water fountains and everything there, the community center and the showers. And so, what's to say, who's to say you should go to the smaller size and then, well, it doesn't meet the code you need for your kitchen, or,
I don't know why there isn't some kind of rainy day fund or something that we can do, somewhere we can pull a rabbit out of the hat to help somebody out. I'm all for, I'm pro-business. I'd like to
The
see more
rainy day-
businesses in the town, and if he,
The
I don't
rainy
wanna
day
see it
fund
shut down.
normally sustain the village and all of its entities prior. That might not be a bad idea for the DDA.
Well, I'm just looking at all
That's
the
the
other
business side of things.
vacant lots we've got in the town. We don't need another vacant lot. We don't need anything going to the land bank, I don't think we can afford to keep it. I mean, if he can afford to keep it open, have at it.
Right. I think there's 2 things. We look at the DDA to see if that's something they'd like to start. They have, within the facade grant program, maybe they start a rainy day fund for businesses or incubator. And then the other side of that is, I would like to see that article again, and I wanna see if it's factual.
I'd
on
say give
what
us
did
some
you
time
receive
and
from
see
the
if we can
federal
reach out to him
government?
again to get it going, because,
Cause my recollection is like $144,000 or something. It wasn't just chump change, and that's for the business.
He served,
I would like to see the article, and I'll have to find that. It's
he received that much
something happenings in St. Charles, maybe
business.
it was posted, but does anybody have the article?
I think it can be researched on them live if you want to look
Okay. That's
Wow.
another
We
thing
should.
to do.
Just contact them,
Wow.
But, I mean, those are things I consider, for sure.
You can look it up by zip code and it'll tell you what businesses got applied.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
I'm sure he's got costs, it's like anything, but how much, where it went, I get it. Yeah, his plans to reopen now, don't let it go under. I don't know,
Oh, that's
there's gotta be an option for a little bit of money that he's asking, it's not a lot.
It's not that,
We get
that
it.
little bit of money, Paul.
We get it.
It's the idea that if you do it
For
for
one,
him,
you gotta do it for all, we get it.
yeah. That's something that you start, then you can really, you know,
Like he's
get
saying,
in
if
trouble
you
with.
knew if somebody just squandered the money and didn't care and just refusing to pay all their bills, that's one thing, but if he's
think
got
if
a
the church
time
finds out
and he
that-
needs a little help, a little support,
Wait,
not a
and it-
handout, a
and
hand up
I
to get
thought
the
the guy
business
was
running.
gonna
I think
open
he's
up,
been
I'd really
irresponsible
consider
as
it.
of this point with that business.
I don't know enough about it to say one way or another.
Well, he hasn't been paying his water bill, and he hasn't been
Might be
contacting
more issues than
DPW.
what any of us know.
Yeah, if he wanted to open up, you think that he would be beating on the door to find out why he couldn't get some help.
Maybe somebody ought to look into it.
Yeah,
If we make any hasty
yeah,
judgments.
yeah, let's
We-
table
we
it
could
till
table it
next
for a
month.
We could keep calling them and leaving messages
Give it a
as
month.
we have.
Yeah, let's table it for a month.
And if he talks to Hart, it's possible to work out a payment plan too, we've done that.
Yeah, anything.
But you have to talk to the village.
I mean, to make payments, you gotta have a business open to have some kind of income coming in, if that's his only source of income.
But I'm sure if he wanted to open up and he talked to Hart, I'm sure he could work something out.
Well, there you go,
But he's gotta talk to him.
there you go. See if he talks, let's give him a month, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reach out to them tomorrow and, hey,
Yep, yep.
what
What
are
are
your
we gonna
intent?
do here?
What's the reopening plan, timeline, to get that kind of information? Again, we've left several, at least two voice messages I recall in the last week and a half. And we wanna help.
Yeah, let's say the guy's sick now. Maybe he's got the flu, so he couldn't respond, you know, he's busy
was
doing
just-
something
He was
else.
just here though, he was just here, and then he left.
And he left.
What?
Yeah, he was back there and he left.
It was here, turned around and left. Something about a candle.
Oh, well, okay. If something
You don't
happens
need
like
mine
that, you
blowing
know.
off.
Well, you wanna just hold off, see if he comes back, and go through the rest of the agenda if he does, and then make a decision at the end? Maybe he's got it fixed at his mom's,
Yeah, let's do
maybe he
that,
has, you
otherwise
know,
we'll
let
table
him
it for a
speak.
month.
you know,
Yeah, we can do that.
so,
That makes sense to me.
Takes us down to item D, Parks 5-year plan.
every 5 years, the DNR requires you, or the village, to submit a area parks and recreation plan. On your desk, when you walked in, was the most recent and up-to-date. Met with Paul, just this week to go through and make sure that we saw and found everything. So we will be having a special, a public hearing on this, January 11th at 6:30 right here before the council meeting. So the public can, go through this. We'll put it on our website. We will
Who's
have
gonna
it.
be here?
Pardon?
DNR, the state?
We have to submit it to them. We have to give this to all the townships that we touch, and they have to have resolutions before it's approved. But first, we have to have a public hearing on that before we can send it out. So that's what we'll do. Like I mentioned before, this is an ambitious plan. Some of the goals are a new playscape for $100,000 in Coal Miners Park. Fit with the rubber bottoms and like the huge monstrosity. Might take a few years to pay for, but we want people driving through to see this. When we have Rebel Magnolia, we want kids to be able to play while parents shop. It also includes a fishing pier somewhere, either Lumberjack or Waterfowl. That's where I think that trees cutting by MDOT could help us. It involves paving the coal miners' baseball area concession stand. It involves repaving the basketball courts and upgrading there. It involves working with Sam in the disc golf course. It involves more benches. Mr. Gardner, I don't know if he's still here. Jay's here. Really likes the benches and has pushed for them and is doing research. In doing research, it's the benefit is immense. It allows people to be outside longer and to walk further. So appreciate that. Add more benches. Continue to maintain and improve the ball diamonds. Working with Sam and Paul in the Little League. Like we mentioned, in 2019, Field 1 dugouts were replaced and enlarged. In 2021, above board roofing replaced the roofs to all dugouts with shingles that should last about 30 years. Yes, sir.
We've been talking about this several times about the boat launch of the DNR. We know it's not accessible, like you said, you're gonna put money into removing stuff in the train bridge. We've talked about this several times. I know we've been giving out grants, they just gave up a couple $1 million to Bay City, the parks. I don't know how we can reach out to. Very simple idea to put a boat launch in at Lumberjack Park. It's so easy. You're already gonna you're talking about putting a dock out there and a kayak launch. That just expand it a little bit, very low cost. Put a boat launch in there, which is nothing, to be a couple cement strips, maybe a little gravel, and expand it so you can pull a boat and a trailer in there. It could be a snowmobile staging area. You can pull it right around to your kayak launch. Talk about it makes just too much good sense. You really can't use the DNR boat launch. They do for snowmobiles and that, but you got no place to pull anything in there right now. If you were to use the boat launch, use it as a boat launch, you'd have to almost make where the volleyball thing is done. You just have to make it a little farther. Maybe make a one-way coming around back into the river. It's the deepest spot in the river. You really can't launch a boat at the DNR. It's almost impossible in the summer. There's no water there. Deepest spot in the river is right at the train bridge. Just make that parking lot a little wider between them trees so people can put up there or pull up there farther with the boat and the truck. And you got several spaces you can pull in there. They can also be used in the winter for snowmobiles. Makes perfect sense.
Sounds like January 11th. I'm going to hear that and get that in here. That's a good idea. I
don't know why it's
want to know
a good
exactly where you're talking. Are you talking about just to the right of the train? Right where there's already kind of a launch?
Right in next to the train bridge, the deepest spot in the river. So, I'm surprised somebody hasn't did it years ago. Like you're saying, it's all bunched up with crap at the train bridge.
Yeah.
Can't even use it. It's not accessible.
Yeah, it's pretty low. It is pretty low. It's crazy. So this is just so for you to review. It has the Survey Monkey with people's responses at the back, last pages. We had 231 responses from residents, which is better than the previous 5 years. Yes, sir.
We never had a special meeting though, previous January 11th, correct? It says it in here. Public
No.
request was also held. Okay.
No.
Like, I
Every
hearing about that.
Every parks meeting is special to me. We've been working on this for probably 5 months, maybe 4 months. It got to the point where my eyes went crossed. It felt like a thesis. There was some information that was impossible to get. They wanted $600 for a document, and I refused to pay it. But I found a way, a workaround to get it for much less. Up to date, 2022 numbers. They couldn't afford it when they did it last time, and we couldn't afford it now. But I told the truth and got the answers that I wanted. But we will talk about this next month. Parks will meet prior. We'll go over this page by page. We can do 10 pages at a time. We can go through the whole document and add and subtract as you wish.
How many pages is that?
Pardon?
How many pages is that?
Well, not including the final 18. I think we got it down to 29. So that was information only, something for you to review. This is the most recent document, up to date.
Alright, and then item F, part-time officer.
With the heroes and whatnot, I always think it's good to look at adding staff. especially as we get into budget season, what we're gonna prepare for paying all for next year. Wondering if you'd like to look at hosting interviews. Obviously, the average time frame to hire someone new in the public sector is 27 days. So it's a thought out and drawn out process. So I was wondering if we should get the ball rolling, looking at adding an additional part-time officer.
Are all of our officers full-time, couple two part-time,
They're all full-time, but one spends time at the school,
but one doesn't
She's
get paid?
part-time.
so part-time.
Say, I don't believe that 40 hours with
Yeah,
it.
so
We have 2 full-time and 1 part-time at this time.
when I got here, we had 2 full-time and 3 part-time, and so,
Well, I'm just thinking about what happened on Thanksgiving.
right.
I mean, we could use the resources somewhere else. I don't like to take anything away from the police department. I am pro-police. But I think Officer Ott could be used,
Move to full-time.
yeah, or maybe get a retired police officer or vet to help up the school. Probably a lot less cost to pay him to do it, and he could probably be there more.
Well, didn't we also with an agreement with Officer Ott that, I mean, she's on call, we're paying for her, so she can leave the school for calls.
How many
Yeah.
hours does she average at the school, do you know, a day? How many days a week?
She does 4 hours, 4 days a week.
4 days.
That's her weekly average, yep,
So
at
Monday
the
through
school.
Thursday, doesn't,
And then,
can be Tuesday through Friday, doesn't matter?
no, it bounces around, her schedule kind of is flexible based on, we spent the first few months just kind of assessing the needs of the school. We find lunch hour is an important time for her, after school time is an important time for her, so, that kind of bounces around based on the needs of the school. And then she also spends 4 hours a day that's not, in the school.
But I get it, nobody wants to work the holidays, nobody wants to work it, but then you get stuff that happens like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? We could've maybe had somebody on duty or had somebody on call, somebody local. I think she's probably about closest or one of them, that's probably not too far out of town. I don't know, just a thought.
What happened to the 10-hour shifts we used to do?
full-timers, according to the collective bargaining agreement, our full-timers do 10-hour shifts. So if we put Officer Ott as a part-timer on 10-hour shifts, then we can only use her 3 days a week. And so putting her on the 8th gave us 4 days a week to have her in service and available.
Can we be more
So,
efficient maybe in scheduling? Is there any way? Sometimes I've seen on the schedule where there's 3 officers on a day. I know sometimes it's court, like sometimes you gotta go to court. I was wondering if we could be a little more efficient. Is there any way, efficiency on the schedule of how we schedule officers?
yeah, but she's been on field training. When you hire an officer new, they aren't immediately put on the road. They have requirements set up by the state, set up by each department to do a certain amount of time, a certain amount of training, and they have to review the policy and procedures and go through each one of those. Our liability company has requirements as well. So with her being part-time at the school and part-time on the road, that's kind of elongated her time in that training. We have completed that, so we're hoping by January, actually, we're scheduling it for January, that she is no longer in training. So she'll be on the road on her own. So, she's at the school alone, so we're just moving through that process. Unfortunately, the state's made a lot of changes to law enforcement, there's been a lot of changes to hiring. The state right now, we're down about 4,000 officers across the state. Even getting officers is difficult, getting them trained, all their changes. It seems like there's a lot happening. Also puts, just limitations on how quickly those things occur. I have a little blurb for you guys, but we'll also have some information, you guys, at the semester, looking for, January into next year, what we'd like to do with her timing. Absolutely need more staff. I believe Hart said there was 3 part-time, 2 full-time, and we really need to get, more staffing. It's gonna be a struggle to get them.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of money put out toward the police department, the new cars and whatever. But there needs to be a solution so that never happens again, so two people don't have to step up and pull a gun on somebody. That incident, I mean, how long did it take them, just from what I'm hearing? 911 was called, I don't know how long it took them to get from the other side of Saginaw to out here. That's ridiculous. There should be, like Chesaning used to have a substation or whatever. Somebody should be at least within,
Every
15
department
minutes,
is short
20 minutes?
staff, we talked about, we are,
that was ridiculous.
county is,
There was
Chesaning
nobody on
is,
duty.
it's just, right now, like I said, across the state, 17,000 officers are, employed, and they're down 4,000.
Yeah, why
We
wasn't the
get-
sheriff's department or somebody? There should have been somebody.
We have a substation, right, at the school?
The school used to be.
Yeah, the county has, officers that work out of the,
I drove down the
Jim.
football field last week and there was a sheriff parked back there taking a nap. That was in the
Didn't they
morning,
just
that
go there
was in
just
the
to take
morning.
Showers and stuff and.
like I said,
I was
really
like,
what
ooh,
we're
busted.
looking at is the county is short too, and saying too much.
Did they
It's
use the
just
school?
statewide, MSP is short, county is short, it's everywhere, and there's just nobody going into law enforcement, so, we're hoping to see that whole dynamic shift, but it's been, you guys have seen all the
Short staff.
conversation and and people leaving and people being, in a process that they don't wanna be in, so, it's just gonna be something that we have to, unfortunately, ride it out and keep moving forward as a department. Just gonna take us time.
Does opening a new part-time opportunity improve your ability to make sure the town is staffed daily?
It would absolutely, I'd love to see that,
Couple
be
of,
an option, I'd love to see.
couple of the
more
ideas that I've bounced
officers.
around with other managers is looking at sign-on bonuses. Another thing that a lot of communities are doing are willing to pay for cadets to go through the academy with the stipulation that you have to stay in the community for at least 3
I was gonna
years.
say, cause a lot of these people are doing that in Detroit, they're going to the academy in Detroit, and then Indiana's hiring them, so there's gotta be some kind of a.
Yeah, and so that's the thing
They
is,
go
how
through-
long is it, 2 years, 3 years, and that's what a lot of managers, they're facing it statewide.
Well, I get it.
And then the
They
other
used to
question
do
they always
that.
ask is signing bonuses, how do the other employees take that?
Well, they're looking at the salary in Detroit was 50,000-60,000, and then when Indiana's offering them 75,000-80,000, what are you gonna do?
Right.
Julie, I just have a question. Is there a reason why we don't
We're
have
not on-
officers
We're
on?
not on her report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well,
Stick
your
to the
report.
agenda, please.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Is this something we should pursue now, or do you wanna just do it as part of the budget process as we kinda get a plan to?
Well, I think it's something that needs to be discussed,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all brand new, I don't know what channels to go through, what to do, or how to do it yet, I mean, it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, that's why
I
it's
mean,
here.
I know we're budgeted or whatever, I don't know all about that and the ins and outs, I'm sure all of us would like to have a little discussion on that.
Yeah.
There's gotta be some resources or something we can do,
I'm sorry,
not only
tell
help them out, help the
me
village
again how
out.
many hours a week Officer Odd is on?
She's part-time in the state of Michigan, so the average that is 32 hours a week,
And that's
based
what
on
she's
the state of
doing?
Michigan.
And that's what she's doing right now?
She averages 30 to, I think she averages a little bit more than that.
Whatever happened to overtime?
She.
Are we allowing overtime?
We budget for it, I think we budgeted $7,500 for it, we've used, about $700 of that, I believe.
Yeah,
According to BSNA, which is a system that tracks our inputs and outputs.
Maybe that's a consideration we might be able to make too, is doing some overtime.
Yeah,
Overtime or holidays or, yeah, it's not a lack of, ability to work, so.
Going on with the part-time employee, are there any older, retired gentlemen out of Saginaw or Bay City or Midland or Chesaning or anything that's up for
Yeah.
a few
We-
hours?
We posted a few times, on a couple of different, sites for police officers or people that are interested. I can tell you that COVID affected law enforcement like it did every, business. The retired people that worked 20 hours a week said, yeah, we don't wanna deal with this anymore. Law enforcement was affected by that, specifically in that area, that, retired people are like, it's not worth the risk, it's not
You're
worth the
just anybody
danger.
out there to hire for part-time.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, have a difficult time finding that.
Well,
But we'll keep pressing on.
yeah, yeah.
And if we, that's part of why I put it here is, do we begin the process? So let's see if we
Yes.
put it posted on M-Coals and see if we get any people willing to work 32 or 16 hours in the village and kind of go through the resumes and see if it works. I mean, I think now would be a good time to do that.
I do too. I do too, the sooner the better as far as I'm concerned.
In the meantime, could we do a little overtime?
If we got budget for it, we might as well. If they're willing to do it, extra day a week.
Just gotta worry about burnout with few
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah, there's few as we got, yeah.
Maybe it'll encourage them to take
Because
vacation days.
right
and use
now,
those days
on the,
off.
well, this past, November schedule, there was no one on Sundays at all. Any
I
of
don't
the
know if we should be
Sundays.
announcing that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Like, that's one of those things
No,
we don't.
I
we
said
don't-
that was
We go to
in
closed session
November.
if you wanna talk about
I
that.
said that was in November, so
Right.
that's passed.
I can tell you that our officers work, including myself, more than the time that we're paid. There's no lack of passion, there's no lack of wanting to take care of the village on that part. So we'd be happy to take overtime, because we work that anyway, honestly. So that's not a lack on our part of that being done, so, and holidays are the same.
You get paid hourly or salary?
We're all hourly.
You being chief of the police, or you still hourly?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's make a motion.
Should we get a motion to approve?
To look for a part-time
for
officer,
part-time
yes.
officer?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
It's dependent on the cost, yeah, I mean.
For 32 hours, it's about $30,500. For 16 hours, it's half of that, 15,280 something, 252.
Well, let's start looking for, the higher, and we'll go into that when we get start the budget. See
In
where
light of
we are
what
with
happened
that.
out there, I mean, as long as we're covered, I'm good with it, but I say that, yeah, that should never have happened, whether it be the sheriff department or somebody should be out this end of the county anyways.
All those
Yeah,
in
we are
favor?
citizens.
Did we have a second?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Jake,
Gotcha,
Darcy.
sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
So that passed. On to the next. Problem.
Department reports. Item A, DPW report.
I think we missed.
On the water end of it, we winterized the water system for the year, that's been taken care of. On the streets, we repaired the lamps on the north and south branch of the bridges, and the lamp posts weren't working going. Parks, mulch leaves for the year, we put up Christmas lights, coal miners and water funnel park, and then on the miscellaneous, we put up the 38 trees for the old-fashioned Christmas. We put up Hart's new 16 decorations on the bridge, which they do look much better up on a pole than they did sitting in a box.
Yes, they do.
They did look good in the box. I was really thinking people are gonna hate them.
They
I was wondering, but
They look nice up there. And you guys done a good job. Thank you for all the extra things you do, Don.
we do the best we can.
Yeah, downtown looks pretty good.
Yes, it does.
Just so we can keep the trees straight with all the wind, so.
Yeah, windy in the night. Looks good.
Is that it?
Yeah, if you got questions,
Yeah, I
comments?
do. you can call it targeting, I think we've went over this before. You put a sign in off Chesaning Street, targeting one individual over there. I don't understand why you couldn't have just, it'd even been cheaper to go up and knock on the door and just say something versus putting that sign in. If you're gonna put a sign in, why didn't you put them all along there? If it's not targeting, why didn't you put signs in all along there?
I don't think it was targeting, it was where somebody was parking on village property.
Yes, it was. You know what I'm
and
talking
creating-
about.
Hold on, can I speak? You asked me.
Please do.
And they were running up the grass and making ruts on village property. And I did talk to the homeowner, I didn't talk to the person doing it, cause I didn't know who did it, but I
You know
mentioned it
who
to the homeowner, and whether she talked to him or not, I have no idea.
Wouldn't it have been cheaper just to knock on the door versus putting a sign in, like trying to make an accusation?
We did not
You
make
did not put signs in all along there, you just put it in that one location,
Where we
trying to
were-
send a message and you were targeting
where
somebody.
we were having an issue with someone running up village property. I don't think
They
that's
parked
targeting.
over there, that's all they did. If you don't want anybody parking in that, then you probably should put signs up all the way along there, not just one sign. That whole thing in there, maybe you get with Sam Mayer or whatever, I know the ground's gonna be froze here soon. I think we can get some volunteers in there to clean that up, that is disgusting down there, it's terrible. That whole area is. You're worried about somebody making a rut and you look, and that whole thing is blood. The whole thing, there's trees down, I mean, there's people that would take that wood in a millisecond. You can go in there and just mark a couple trees that you wanna keep, some of the bigger ones, and let them clean up the rest. Dale
Where's that
Greaves,
fire you're talking about?
Chesaning Street, right behind the, what do you call it, haunted house, all that through where the old tracks were. It's terrible down there, all the poison ivy and all the nettles and picker bushes and all them trees broken down back there. You planted trees there years ago and now you got all these other little sucker trees that are taller than the trees you planted. They failed to maintain it. It just needs to be cleaned up.
Well, we have talked about we're gonna get rid of all them, but the tracks, we really can't go in there and level all that stuff. That's
I didn't
not
say
it.
level it, I think I remember years ago, Dale Greaves was one of them, the state funded it, and I don't think the state would have a problem with us doing volunteers to clean up, that way they don't have to pay for it. I think you just get an okay from them, get some kind of somebody in there to show us where the property line is, mark the trees you wanna keep, clear the rest. I don't think the state, I don't know what to do it. I know the state owns most of the railroad tracks and all that, obviously they're not used, and it is blight, and if you want me to, I'll bring pictures, and if you guys don't wanna go look at it, I'll bring it to you. I'll take pictures of it, and bring it, it's terrible.
All we've had discussions on it, we have plans to clean it up.
Well, then what do we need to do to get it done?
The ground
When it
freeze.
freezes and we get some extra time, we're gonna go down there.
I just say, I know people that would take the wood, and it's terrible back there.
Well, we're not gonna get into that, cause that's a problem, we just get rid of it, cause it's a bigger mess when you let someone else clean it up, it's a bigger mess than you just.
But if you're not targeting somebody, remove the sign. They ain't gonna park there, I think they got the message.
I think they are gonna park there.
Huh?
I think they are gonna park there.
Oh, really? Well, why don't they just park down a little farther?
Cause we had a barricade up trying to, you know. and
Did they
just-
park there when you had the barricade
Yeah,
there?
they
No,
moved
didn't.
it.
No, they
moved-
didn't.
Yes, they
No,
did.
they did
They
not.
moved the barricade.
No. You-
Anyway, that's,
Okay, I don't think this is
You're
productive right now.
targeting. I think that sign needs to be removed.
Let's move on to item B, the police department report.
In the interest of the 6 pillars of law enforcement, I just kinda gave you guys a myriad of information in there. Kinda just briefly covering what we've done in the last month. There's things in there that you don't have any interest in, let me know. If there's something that comes to mind that you would like to start seeing in the reports, please let me know. I'm happy to tweak those to answer and address questions or comments for you guys, so. Any questions?
I got a question, Julie. The new Interceptor, is it all outfitted? Everything's ready to go on the new Explorer?
The only thing that we're waiting on, I believe it says it in here, is we're just waiting for a radar, a speed detection radar to be,
Okay,
come in, we're still waiting. Spoke with them, figure it was 4 to 6 weeks out.
okay. So have we figured out what we're gonna do with the Taurus? If we're gonna have, I mean, if there's 3 vehicles now.
Yeah, right now I'm interested, in seeing if that would be a good option for an SRO car. if, she has the opportunity to do SRO next year, or even full-time, again, we'd like to get a grant, see what we can do
Enlighten me, what's SRO?
for, I'm sorry, school resource officer. Then she would have a marked patrol vehicle, identifying her at the school, being at the school and seeing, versus,
Okay, but what about the other two then? If we have, why would we need 3 vehicles, I guess? I'm just wondering.
well, day-night shift to have, vehicles, and then if we ever have an issue, definitely need a second vehicle. The SRO vehicle, or the school resource officer vehicle, doesn't have a CAD, it doesn't have the computer system that is involved in the county. So for 2 vehicles, it would just be an essential to have.
Okay, I'm just curious, because when we talked about purchasing the new vehicle, it felt like this is just my perception, it felt like we were kicking the tires of the 70,000 mile Taurus. And I was thinking that, like, if we got this is just me thinking, if we got the new vehicle, we'd actually either sell or auction off the other one to kind of help subsidize or pay for that new vehicle. I thought that'd be more like fiscally responsible, but.
And we
I don't know
had a
anything about
prior,
that.
police vehicle that was in the garage that I believe DPW took over, which was another option for that. The, SRO position though, really needs a vehicle that identifies them, the school resource officer position, as a law enforcement officer. Again, some of that's perception at the school, people know that they're there, and it's still an option, nothing's definitely been said about that. And at that point in time, we didn't have a set SRO position, even that we looked at, though we've been shooting for that for a couple of years.
Being in the community we live in, I've never understood. I mean, I see them down in Troy, I drive around quite a, why don't we have a pickup truck?
I'm sorry?
I mean, what's the difference on the cost between a SUV like you have and a pickup truck? Can't be a whole lot.
Why don't we have a pickup truck, is what you're asking me?
Especially living out on the road, I mean, I could see maybe not having it in Saginaw, but
It is,
out where we live,
I
Chesapeake.
think there's probably a significant price difference, or a lot of departments would have pickup trucks, 'cause
I just see them down in the cities and just never understood why we don't have it.
a
It
pickup
make a
truck.
lot more sense.
The other reason that an SUV is more functional for us is, room for the people that we take to jail.
4-door.
Yeah, come and take a quick peek, because you lose just a considerable amount when you cage people in, you lose a lot of space inside that vehicle. So for a pickup truck, it's just a tight fit, and the car is as well. You can see that, but- And then what do I put in the bed? I don't know that I'd have a function for a bed too often, but I know they're cool. I
I'm
love
not
it.
saying cool, I mean, I think you could use it for many other things than just.
Sure.
If we do decide to keep all 3, I hope we can fit them out the right way, make sure all 3 have trackers and whatnot on them. You know, if we're gonna actually keep them, but I think it's fiscally responsible to get rid of the other ones, seeing how we said, you're kind of selling us on getting the new vehicles, like, but this has got 70,000 miles on it, and now.
And her position only requires a mile or 2 each shift on that car. But that's something that hasn't been set, hasn't been settled.
Okay.
So that's that's something we can talk about, what you guys would like to see done with that vehicle.
Are you talking SRO? You're talking,
School resource officer
right, I know.
position, I apologize.
What I'm saying is, her having her own car. Now, are you saying she would strictly be the SRO then? Is that what you're saying, or?
Right now, she's part-time
No, I know.
SRO and part-time.
You said in the future,
Yeah.
possibly her having her own car as SRO.
Using that sedan
Mhm.
that we've taken out of service as a school resource officer car, yeah. I'd love to see her full-time in the school in the next year or 2 years.
Okay, and that's when you would use that car?
Currently, she uses it to drive to the school. She comes into service so that there's a police car in the parking lot while she's there, and she brings it back. When she works the road, she has to have a car that has, he was talking about trackers. Each of our vehicles is tracked by the county that has the computers in it. That SRO car is not tracked by the county. So when she goes into service to be not in the school, she has to get into one of the vehicles that the county can keep an eye on.
But isn't she able to leave the school if she was to get a call?
Yes, she can.
So then if she has that car that doesn't have anything tracking it,
Yeah,
what does she do?
so, yeah, so it goes with her from the school, but currently, like I said, she's in training, so she's not even primary on the call right now. So, in the future though, she would take the car from the school if she's working from the school,
Okay.
yeah.
I appreciate that you're putting more information in your reports as to what's,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on.
And then in January, like I said, she should be off the training, so that you'll see a very structured schedule, which in this last few months we haven't had. And we all feel the pressure of that, but there'll be a definitely a more structured schedule. We don't share that typically with the public on a regular basis, so if you guys have questions, anytime contact me, and if you have questions or wanna see something, let me know and I can.
I appreciate that you don't share that with the public, I totally understand that. I would like to know what's going on ahead of, you know, like next month rather than last month. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I just wanna mention too, I saw the new car out on the road the other night and the lights on that thing lit up like a Christmas tree.
Everything is LED.
I had to look at it twice, is that a house car?
You can't really even see the car with the lights, they're so bright.
Right, right.
So, thank you.
MC Building Inspector Code Enforcement Report.
I'll keep this short, I'm sure everyone would appreciate that. We had 8 permits issued last month, 3 of them were for the new Family Dollar. First was the new building permit, the second was the demolition permit for the car wash, and the third was plumbing. The foundations are in place, the floors have been poured and are setting now, and they're currently in the process of putting in the catch basins. They're moving along steadily. So, that's what I have. Do you have any questions?
Scott, I'm still getting complaints about on Flint Street that he's burning stuff other than wood.
And we're working on that. The issue we have is the enforcement of that is currently listed as a fire department duty. We're trying to work through that and get that so I can legally do it with possible changes to our ordinance regulations.
That'll probably come in our code as we move forward. The marijuana, that's one of those things we wanna touch on, because in the past, I believe the fire department let the DNR know, and then they would come out. There's never really in a timely manner to catch what was going on. We have sent the police over there just to check it out as well. Yeah, it's like twice a week. We've asked people nearby, take your camera phone out and record it, so that we can try to see the plastic that's in there. Because by the time DNR gets there, it's mostly wood. But yeah, that's one of those things that's gonna be part of the rewrite that we need to address. Burning plastic in the village, one of those things you didn't think you'd have to, but common sense is not so common sometimes.
So you can go online too and see what's legal to burn and what's not.
I think this individual just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been given that information on several occasions, so we got that.
I just mentioned it because I've been getting complaints again, and I feel I need to tell me that. Okay.
Public comment?
My name is Chris Newman, and I was on the board for a long time. And the only thing I want to say is the importance of that recreation report that you're all gonna look at. You wanna make sure you get all of your wishes and wants in there, because if grants become available and what you wanna, if one comes up and you don't have it in that report that you wanna do that, you're not gonna get that grant. So it needs to be like a wish list, too, things that you're pretty sure you probably can't do, but if they give grants big enough, you can go get them. And we've had the grants several times before, so they like us. They know that we do them right and close them out and do everything we're supposed to do. So I would just look at that report as like a wish list, and like at the stuff you were bringing up, make sure that's in there, because they only give money to what they want to give money to. It's not necessarily what you want, it's what they're willing to give it for, and Hart knows that, so.
I think we've got plenty of ideas, we just don't know
Yeah.
how to.
Well, you need to get him in there in case a grant opens up. They closed him up for a while, and he's aware of them, and he knows what they're willing to give.
Is that
it for.
January 11th?
So,
Yep, so
well, that's what you're gonna look at.
we'll hear the public side, and then we'll get your side and your ideas, and we'll figure out where we wanna put them as far as how it fits into our goals and what's
Get
the,
people like Sam and some other volunteers, maybe we can get some stuff done.
Line 'em up, man. Line 'em up.
That's all, thank you.
Need a deli counter.
Thank you, Chris.
Pretty quiet.
Is on that boat launch thing, how involved is the DEQ and stuff like that, or is it a village decision?
very.
That's what I thought.
That's-
That's the holdup with that.
So that's part of the reason we went with the floating kayak launch, is it keeps the DEQ and the DNR out of it, because it's,
Floating footings.
correct. And
So
so,
that was, with the boat launch, that would be our hurdle. I agree with you 100%.
What about the parking?
Oh, we
Do
do
we
have-
have to actually, I mean, it's so simple, it's sickening, like where you drive down to the river along the tracks there, we call it rail trail.
you're gonna pay for an
Well,
environmental
that's
study from the
But there's nothing
DEQ.
there. I mean, all,
Right.
have you ever been
DNR is
down to the
gonna come in.
end of Hewlin Road, Pickle Drain down there?
Yeah.
It's so simple, they're just cement strips that you back your boat in. It's as simple as that, maybe dump some gravel on there. It's just that simple, and then just
Wouldn't
make
it?
it a little wider. I mean, how many people use the volleyball thing? Nobody uses it, so just make it a little wider, don't knock any trees down, just pull between the trees. And you back in, pull right in, one way around, you go right to your kayak launch.
He
Boat
makes
launch,
it sound
done.
so simple.
Well, putting it in is easy,
Yeah.
it's getting the approval of the DEQ.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying, do we, if that's village property, do we really need
Oh, yeah.
That's not
just to
our
put a
realm.
parking lot in? A parking lot.
And they own
Really?
it, right?
Can I just tell
I mean,
you
it's not gonna cost them anything other than,
No, they're
The
gonna,
labor.
they're gonna get money out of
They're gonna
us
gouge
to
us.
pay for the environmental study to see how it would affect
Right.
the river and this and that.
Yep.
Yes,
The
Chris?
one you're talking about is out of sight. It's down where nobody ever sees it, and they don't see it. But if you stick one in that park, that DNR or Eagle or whatever.
Or
it's
Saginaw
called
County
now,
Parks.
is gonna find it, because we put snow there once, and we had to move it because it had salt in it. They saw it, so it's all like.
what's
where
different than
it's-
that than putting it on the road and let it go into the drains? What's the
Well,
difference?
Well, you have
That's how they
to
want
pick it
it.
up,
Well, the problem
and
is
we
they
plow it.
they
put it on
have
the
catch
road.
basins and they have traps, if you go to any other one they do. The thing is with the parking lot, I get what you're saying, but if you guys ever go down and you guys actually use the river and go down there, which I'm down there a couple times. If you guys go down the end of, Miller Road, how they got away with that is they did a bigger sized river rock. And how they got away with it, they got to dump the river rock and they got to slope it up. So every year, they added on top of river rock that came down to where they didn't have to pour footings, they didn't have to pour nothing, they didn't have to do nothing. So that's something you guys can look into. If you want my input on it, I mean, all you gotta do is just drive down the end of the Miller Road up to Swan Creek, go back there and see what they did. And they ran 2 poles, dumped river rock, and every year or other year, they will add river rock on top of it to build it up. So
Who's they?
that is how you get away with,
Who's they?
well, it'd be.
Road commission or is that
Road
DNR?
commission. But that's not gonna clear the
I'm just saying it
parking.
might be somebody to talk
That's not
to
gonna clear the parking,
to pave
but
the way for
I
us.
think doing the parking would be a big ordeal, but what makes you think that if you wanna make something like that, why can't they drive back up over the hill with their trailer and park elongated like they do?
Yeah, I'm
for
good
the
with it,
haunted
except-
houses? Because there's really not there's really not, and the guys that have duck boats, they're gonna go down Hillen Road, and they're gonna put in the boat launch, because they run shallow drive
I agree, but
anyways.
with the way they've got it set up across from the park, in the park there, there's no way you could actually put
Oh, I
a
mean,
boat and a trailer,
I
a
get
truck and a trailer there, it's not gonna work.
I
One
get
of
you.
the
Park
things that-
across the lots.
One of the things, when we were talking with the park, because I'm on the park commission too, I suggested, because the swing set that we have there at Lumberjack Park does not get used, and you can tell that because the grass is growing up around it. I suggested taking all that out and putting a parking lot there, but that's in the, probably the long run, you know,
Parking lot should be where
not gonna happen overnight.
the volleyball court that nobody ever uses should be like a one-way driveway right around through it. It's so simple, it's sickening.
Well, it's simple, Paul, but it doesn't, it's not that simple, okay? I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not that
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, it sounds simple to you, but it's very difficult. Because you gotta jump
red
through
tape
so
stuff,
many
yeah.
hoops.
If you guys really wanna know, Lumberman Park's a giant litter box, pretty much. All they do is the cats go down there and bury their dumps.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'm just telling you the truth.
We
Go
know
down,
that
go
too.
down there with your kids barefoot, you'll find out.
Yeah, we know that, we heard that too.
So we have your cat
There, I know where that is.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No, no.
Meeting adjourned.
he never came back, so we just postponed it till.